morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2014 Naval Academy Leadership Conference, Followership, the Evolution of a Leader. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones and refrain from using them during the speaking events. It is my pleasure to welcome the Naval Academy's 61st Superintendent, Vice Admiral Michael H. Miller, to the stage.
Thanks, Justin. Well, good morning and welcome. This is a privilege for us. We host this annually, and each year, as we get this confab together, we get to learn new things about the aspirational and the inspirational dimensions of leadership. 220 plus delegates, some still making their way in here. Plus, you'll see midshipmen come and go up here as they have gaps in their academic day to be able to come in and catch some of the lectures. 60 universities are represented here. And for some of you all, there may be a sense that, well, we're just here by accident. And trust me, nobody is here by accident. I don't know the exact process whereby your individual institutions picked you, but we each year go through the list and we say, okay, so we had a great conference last year. How do we improve it? Where do we go for those institutions that are like-minded, that share our absolute devotion to improving the discussion of ethical leadership in America? And that's what this forum is all about. So I take great, it's a great privilege to have you all here. I take great hope in the fact that as we attract those that are most focused on shaping our nation's future, that we would have the best and the brightest in this room. So I haven't met him yet, but I'm hoping that Captain Flip Klein is here. Captain, are you here? Not this morning. You will get a chance to meet him, graduate of the class of '06, West Point, and a wounded warrior. But once again, epitomizing that which we think represents that ethos, that willingness to follow, that willingness to serve. So I find inspiration in a lot of different things. Some old movies give me a lot of pause for thought. So I mean, whether it's Citizen Kane or the Kane Mutiny, or my personal favorite, White Christmas. But if you think about it, and I recognize this is, for some of you all, this is a bit of a stretch, but White Christmas is a story, of course, about two Army veterans that serve in World War II, and as followers come to recognize what their leader did for them. The covenant leadership that, in this case, Major General Tom Waverly displayed for them, and they want to pay him back. And it's interesting to me. I mean, one of the famous songs from the movie is "We'll follow the old man wherever he wants to go," and it's true today as it was 60 years ago when this movie was made. That there is still an important aspect about how we relate with those that are, in point of fact, our mentors, those that provide the role models to us for a life of ethical development. And of course, there's General Tom Waverly, and there's the quote, "We ate and then he ate, we slept and then he slept." That is a very familiar mantra for many of us in the military arts, because when you're in the field, that is always the case. The troops eat first, the leadership eats last. So you would not be surprised that I happen to embrace this particular book, Leaders Eat Last. This is by Simon Sinek. And if you haven't had a chance yet to hear Simon, we've had him on the campus here. I recommend that you bring him to your particular campus. I'm not out shilling for him. I'm not trying to sell his books, but I will tell you, just watch him on TED.com and see what he has to say. This Leaders Eat Last is precisely what we as aspirational leaders should seek. This idea that we will always put our troops, those that are beneath us, our followers, ahead of us. in terms of trying to take care of them. So Simon talks a lot about, in his first book, about to start with why. And he says that most organizations know what they do, and that's pretty common. He says better organizations know how they do it, but extraordinary organizations understand why they do it. And it's that question. I would tell you that if you were talking to your university president or chancellor, they would undoubtedly, if asked this question, why do they exist, they would give you something along the lines of to provide a premier education that will provide ethical leaders to serve the nation. Something right along those lines. You all represent that. And again, you're not here by accident. There's a reason that brought you here today, and this dialogue that we will share throughout the conference, that's the greatest benefit. That's how we, in point of fact, elevate and change the dialogue, make our leadership skills greater. And there's so much that we can learn from one another. I'm convinced we learn as much from our peers as we do from our professors. So that while I reject categorically the idea that leaders are born, I believe leaders are made. And this dialogue is part of that. So we wouldn't be here today, of course, without the generosity of so many others. We stand on the shoulders of greatness. Every one of you all come from an institution where you can point to and say, boy, look at what this individual or this group was able to do. We are in a hall that was designed back in the early 1900s and yet still stands the test of time. We're so proud to be able to show you some of the Naval Academy while you're here, but I think more importantly, I think we should recognize that this is much more than just bricks and mortar. It is a physical manifestation of the commitment of others to develop leadership. And that's why this theater was originally constructed. The class of 1938 is one of our generous benefactors here, and they have continued to support this conference over the past 31 years. But in its current form, it's really taken shape thanks to the incredible generosity of Linda and Mitch Hart, who we're pleased to have with us today. And I hope that you all will get a chance to talk to them while they're here. Linda is a very accomplished attorney and a professor and a legal advisor to everything from the SEC to the New York Stock Exchange. Mitch is a graduate of the class of '56 and a former Marine. As you all know, you're never an ex-Marine, you're a former Marine. And Mitch has had a phenomenally successful career, both in the Marine Corps and then in business as he moved forward through IBM and EDS, and now is the chairman of RMAX, and basically knows just about everybody in the world of business. Thanks to their generosity, we are able to have this dialogue. And so the question I would pose to you is, so why are you here? And you should set some aspirational goals. Certainly I hope that it'll be for some friendship and some fun. It should be something that is enjoyable, but at the same time is intellectually stimulating. It should be something that we would at the end say, you know, I really learned something. But it is, as with all things in life, it is what you invest in for which you will get something out of. So we're so pleased that you could be here. Most especially, we're honored that we've got some of our distinguished alumni in front here, some of our great faculty and staff here throughout the week. And I would tell you, for me, it is a great and humbling experience to have Mitch and Linda Hart here with us this morning. So if I could invite Mitch Hart to come up to the stage, sir.
One of the great pleasures of my life is when this happens every year. And one of the greatest things that's happened, we have a superintendent here who lives it, believes it, and really encourages it.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate
One
it.
of my classmates, Casey Kenningston, has done a job of interviewing some of our graduates. And he'd like to present to you in the hopes that maybe it'll work in the leadership classes here.
Thank you very much, Mitch.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. The great thing is you're here because you're leaders. Nobody needs to tell you that you're a leader if you are one. The thing that probably encourages me as much as anything else is that every day I meet a new person who is new to leadership or excited about leadership. Linda and I sponsor several leadership programs across the country. We've had over 9,000 in a program down at Duke, which we met with some resistance when we started it, but now it's become a very popular thing. We do some stuff with SMU, and we do other things too. The thing that impresses me is the people that want to learn and want to participate. When the Admiral says, you're not born a leader, I agree with that. But unless you expose people to leadership and the person really wants to lead, they're not going to lead. I have done a lot of speaking across the country, a lot of times to CEOs and to other people too. And in fact, when I ran one series of these, kind of as just a point of reference to me, I sent out something that they handed back in. I said, how do you like your job? How do you feel about it? 1/3 of the CEOs that I talked to didn't like it. If you don't like the job, don't do it, because you'll never do it the way it needs to be done. The reason Linda and I got involved in this is that when we were approached by the Naval Academy Foundation, they wanted some support. And we were looking around for things that Linda and I both believed in. He came up with what the class of '38 had done, which was an excellent job. It started way early, and what they did was to take just the military establishments, and it was just a very small group of people from each one to do this. When we got involved in it, we said, because of what I had been through in the Vietnam War, we said, we want to put the civilians in here too. Because right after Vietnam, I was speaking on college campuses. And frequently I would run into situations in which nobody even knew what the military did. This was in the area where they burned draft cards and people went to Canada and the rest of that stuff. And I was so frustrated and disgusted about it. When I had my oldest child that wanted to go to college, all of a sudden I'm faced with a real situation. Where does she go? So we viewed a lot of places across the country. And none of my kids were military oriented, so I didn't even try that. But I said, you have to leave Texas. You cannot go to school in Texas, because I want you to have the experience of living somewhere else. So when we met the superintendent, then superintendent, he said, well, I've got a great idea for you. I want you to endow a professor of leadership or a professor of ethics. And I looked at him and I said, how do you separate leadership from ethics? And he looked at me and says, that's a damn good question. So we didn't do that. But we started thinking about this and what the class of '38 had done. And I said, if we can bring in civilian institutions so that these people meet each other, young people meet each other at this level, you'll establish relationships here you'll use the rest of your life. That's one of the great things in my career that I have enjoyed so very much. But anyway, I'm glad you're all here. It's a delight for us. I have a group of classmates here, and I'm going to ask them to stand up because these are my friends, and these are the people that we have been a long slog together. Would you, class of '56, please stand up? Thank you. Thank you very much. One of our gentlemen was a POW for 7 years, and he is here well and happy, thank God. We still have, out of the class of '38, I believe there's still 13 living graduates of the class of '38. Unfortunately, none of them could come today, but this program is dedicated to them as much as it is to anybody. Thank you all for being here. I think it's a great program. It's great only if you make it great. This is not something you're going to be fed pap to. You're going to have to get in and participate. The speakers that are coming in here today are outstanding. I've gone over the background of all of them, and I'm just tickled to death. So thank you all, and have a great time.